Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. Today's tip is one of the most important tips I can give you. Guys, I get asked all the time from people, what are some of the things that they can do to improve themselves as an angler? Is it figure out what bait to throw at the right time? Is it figure out what decision to make on the water? Is it to go deep, to go shallow, to know how to fish for specific pre-spawners or post-spawners or whatever season of the year it is. But there is one tip that I often see go very much underappreciated and one that a lot of people don't give enough credit to. And this is something that goes back to my college days. And some of you probably heard me tell this story, but anytime I put out like a shallow water power fishing deal where I'm skipping docks or I'm flipping shoreline cover or skipping a swim jig tight to riverbank type stuff, I get a lot of comments from people that are like, man, Matt, you really are good at casting and putting your bait exactly where you want it. And a lot of that goes back to my college days. When I was at the University of Wisconsin at Stevens Point, I was in Knutson Hall, which is a natural resources hall. So the majority of students in that dorm liked to fish. And, most of us would get together and go fishing at times. And during the winter months, a lot of us would just literally flip into a coffee mug in the hallway and we would do it for $1 a time. First one into the coffee cup, 5 times would win the dollar. And I got to tell you, I paid for a lot of beer and pizza during my college years to the point where, in order for people to challenge me, I had to start flipping left handed. And I ended up taking a lot of beer and pizza money during that time too. And I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but really what I'm talking about here is those college days in the dorm is what made me the casting person that I am. It provided me with the casting accuracy that I have now. I'm a very good flipper from both the right hand and left hand, and I attribute most of that back to the point of flipping for hours upon hours in the dorm into a tiny little coffee cup. And what I'm getting at here, guys, is casting accuracy is one of the most important things you can do as an angler if you want to increase your overall fish catching on the water. Meaning, if you want to put yourself in a better position where your productivity is going up, you're generating more bites, you have to learn how to cast. And by that, I'm talking about you need to learn a lot of different things. You should be able to flip. You should be able to skip a bait exactly where you want it to go. You should be able to make 100-foot long cast and land it basically exactly where you want it to be. There's a lot of different types of casts that you might want to try to become very proficient at. Maybe it's a roll cast. Maybe it's just a straight over the shoulder. Maybe it's the skip. And you need to be able to make those casts from a lot of different positions because at some point during your time on the water, a lot of times you might have, a branch hanging over you, or you might just have the boat in a specific position where you need to make either a cast from your right side, maybe you need to make the same cast from your left side. The point here is if you can't make the perfect cast, and by perfect cast, I'm talking you should be able to land your bait within a foot of the target that you're after. If you can land within that foot, you've got a much better shot at generating the strike. From a reactionary standpoint, a lot of the bites you get on that initial fall are completely reactionary. You landed on top of the fish. They were triggered. They ate your bait without having any clue as to what your bait actually was. And that's going to generate a lot of additional bites for you throughout the day. It really comes down to that casting accuracy is so important. I cannot stress this enough. If you land 3 or 4 feet, let's say you've got schooling fish that you see, they're 100 feet away from the boat. You got to make a bomb there. If your bait lands 10 feet away from that schooler or that fish that's busting a shad or busting bait fish, there's a good shot you're not going to generate that strike. If your bait lands right in the circles from where they last busted, you've got a much better shot at generating that strike. The same thing goes for flipping to a laydown tree. If your bait lands that far from the laydown, the fish may not come out and eat it. If your bait lands right on the laydown itself, you're probably going to generate that strike. And I can come up with countless different ways that this is important. I mean, I think back to a Forest Wood Cup on Lake Murray one year where I was skipping buzz baits up under docks, and the only way I could generate a strike is if I was getting my bait way back into the shade lines, but still clinking it off of the dock post. Meaning, not only did I have to skip my bait under the dock, I then had to cast it in a specific position where I would clink it off a dock post on the retrieve back. So there's a lot of really important uh, criteria that goes into making the right cast, guys. I cannot stress this enough. And it's something that really shocks me even today. I see a lot of professional anglers out there that are just deep water fishermen and they go to the bank and they can't make the right cast. And to me, I look at that and I say, guys, that's a weakness that you need to fix because if you can catch them offshore like you can, and then in the tournaments where you can catch them shallow because you've corrected your casting accuracy, chances are they're going to be unstoppable anglers. So it's so crucial to be able to make the right cast both on the shoreline as well as offshore. And the same thing goes for, if you're a big fan of forward facing sonar and you're looking at a fish that's 50 feet out in this direction, you should be able to put your bait on top of that fish the first time. And if anything, guys, to show you the importance, how many times for those of you that are using forward facing sonar, do you see your bait land nowhere near the fish and the fish shows no interest? You land where the fish is and you get interest. That just drives home how important this is. I cannot stress it enough. It's just one of those things that I see so many people underestimate the importance of it. You get anglers that talk a big game and then you watch them fish and it's like, guys, you're not hitting the target. You got to hit the target. And I'm not going to sit here and say I make the perfect cast every time because I absolutely do not. But I can tell you this, I do not have any fear at all of attempting to make the right cast. Meaning, if I'm going down a bank and I got to skip my bait under a tree limb and get it 30 feet back to, a stump or something else, I'm going to make that cast. I'm going to make that cast knowing that I've maybe got a good shot at hitting it. And if I hit that target, I'm going to generate a strike. But I'm also willing to deal with the fact that if I don't hit it, or maybe on that skip, I hit the branch and my bait stops, I could get a backlash. That's part of the game. You got to recognize that the opportunity that's in front of you of getting to that target is greater than the fact that you might get a backlash. There are too many people that are scared of making the cast that they need to cast, that they need to make. And the reality is if you don't make that cast, you're not gonna get those fish to strike. And you get a lot of people that say, well, you shouldn't have made that cast because you have no way of getting that fish out. You got no way of getting the fish out if you don't make the cast because they're not going to bite your bait. So you might as well try it. That's one of the most important things. And I think that's something that you see a lot of the top level anglers willing to do. They're willing to make the cast that nobody else is willing to make. That's one of the most important things that I can stress. I really have no other way of telling you guys to go out there and do it other than to practice. Whether you're flipping into a coffee mug, maybe you sit out on a shoreline and you set up in front of a dock and you try to make the cast 50 times, skipping it up under that dock. You just got to get comfortable making those casts. You got to practice, practice, practice. It's the only way you're going to get down the mechanics to make the correct cast time and time and time again. And when those fish, when you see that fish come up busting, or maybe you're going down a bank and you see a 5-pounder cruising down the bank, you got to know where to make that cast. And, if you can make the cast a perfect lead in front of that cruiser, 15 feet in front of it, if you can envision where to make that cast and then you hit that cast, your odds of catching that fish are so much more important. So, when I get asked all the time, people are like, what bait should I use? What are the best baits out there? What are the best colors? What, this and that. The reality is you can have the right bait, but if you can't make the right cast, you're not going to generate that strike. So I just want to stress how important casting accuracy is. It's something I continue to tell a lot of the high school and college kids and other anglers that I talk to that's one of the most important things you can do. If you're a good caster, you're going to give yourself more opportunities to fish. So hopefully you enjoyed this one, guys. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Stay tuned. We'll have a new video coming out tomorrow for you.